this is Richard Barrett for Guitarist magazine, and I'm here today with the Gretsch Electromatic Jet. It's a twin humbucker guitar with a chambered mahogany body, carved maple top and a mahogany neck. Okay, we just heard some sounds. Now let's get a little bit more deep into the spec. As I said earlier, we've got a mahogany neck. Now this has one piece for the main body of the neck, and it's a scarf joint at the wrist here where the headstock joins the neck. Now this is known to be a very strong way of constructing a neck. It's stronger than the traditional one piece that is very popular but is actually weaker. Similar thing with the heel, which is glued on. You can see we've got this very classic Gretsch headstock, which looks great, enclosed nickel-plated tuners. And we have 22 quite jumbo, they're quite low oval frets, which remind me a lot of some of the older Gibson fretwire. It's very comfortable to play. This is the Performance C profile, and it's glued into the body, which is, as I said earlier, chambered. So this whole thing weighs a shade under 8 pounds, which is quite a nice manageable weight. The chambering does give it something of that Gretsch quality, though these humbuckers are a little bit more high output. They're not quite a Filtertron or a Broadtron. They're actually called the Pure Volt 66. Now, the 66 is because we have 2 rows of adjustable pole pieces, which does change the sound a little bit actually. It's different to a row of slug pole pieces and a row of screws. And in theory at least, you can adjust the balance of your coils so you can offset slightly for a brighter sound or balance them perfectly for the most amount of heft and low end. What we have is a master volume with a treble bleed, which works very well for keeping the tone consistent as you turn the guitar down. So nice when you're plugged into something with a little bit of break up on it and you just want to clean up a little bit. Or a single channel amp where you're looking at playing a blues gig where you have dirty sounds and cleaner sounds. A tone control for each pickup, and each of those has a coil split. So it's a push-pull arrangement. At the tail end here, we have the lockdown adjustable bridge. Now, this has all your adjustments. It's fully intonatable, if there is such a word, which is great. That's a good innovation. The locking, well, as far as I can tell, the benefit of that is so that when you restring, the bridge doesn't fall off if you take all the strings off. What I would say is that if you want to adjust the action, and I did want to adjust the action when I got this out, that you have to unlock the studs and you have to get it just right. It's a bit of a faff, basically. So I'm not a massive fan, and I think maybe that was fixing a non-issue. But now that it is adjusted to my preference, it's working great. Overall, it's quite an appealing package. It looks great. That's a really nice top carve. There's a bit of body relief there as well. So it's comfortable to play and it balances well. And once I got the setup how I wanted it, it plays great too. The only thing we haven't done here is to walk through the controls and talk through those. I'm plugged into the studio's AC15 hand wired with a clean tone with a little bit of hair on it. And so let's have a listen to this bridge humbucker. As I mentioned earlier, the master volume, that's this, has got a treble bleed on it, which is quite effective. So let's hear that in operation. I may come back to that with a bit of drive later, so you'll hear the effect more clearly. Now, moving on to the tone controls, there's a tone control for the bridge, tone control for the neck. Each of those has a coil split option, which does cut the power down fairly significantly, though this bridge humbucker is actually about 11.5K. It doesn't sound like a monster metal humbucker, but there's power there. So let's... To my ears, that's starting to get a little bit more of that Gretsch quality. Obviously, the construction and the fact that it is quite a heavily wound humbucker, even in split mode, there's quite a lot of body to the sound. Let's compare. Actually, set with a little bit of gain on the amp, that minimises the volume difference between the full humbucking and the split mode. Let's hear the neck. It's got a great jazz voicing to it, but if I split, you can use it as an instant EQ to cut out a bunch of low end, or you can use it for something a bit more stringy and twangy. So you can hopefully hear the difference that's making. And I suppose maybe let's hear the roll off of the tone controls themselves. It's quite classy. Sometimes a tone control will just instantly shut off all the high end and be unusable, but that's actually quite a progressive taper. Let's hear that on the bridge. Again, quite usable. I can imagine finding a sweet spot there, especially on the single coil mode. We haven't yet heard both together, which is not as kind of Gibson Les Paul as you might expect, which is funny really, because I hear that this was originally designed as a competitor to the Les Paul. And you can have one or the other or both split. So everything feels very solid and dependable and usable. One thing that I should also mention is that it's 500K pots throughout. Right, well, perhaps it would be good to hear this with a little bit of drive, because this is quite a versatile guitar. I've brought my favourite little modified super overdrive pedal. So let's start with the bridge. Let's go through those sounds again and hear them with the drive. Very satisfying. Now I'm going to back the volume down a bit. Really liking what I'm hearing there, and I can imagine that if you were going old school, playing a gig on basically a driven amp and controlling from the guitar volume, this will do a great job of that. Now, let's split this humbucker, and I'm going to gamble that I've remembered which way round the tone controls are. Yeah. Yeah, okay, nice. Now I'm going to give you the two humbuckers together on full humbucking. Plenty of body, but a good definition. I actually lowered these a little bit to help with that, but that's that's balancing well. Let's split them both. Okay, now the neck, let's start with it in full power. Nice actually. Now let's try the treble bleed on that. I think that it takes a little while to get used to the taper of any kind of control, but these are pretty predictable. That's good. Now let's split that neck. So we get something that's a little bit more Fendery, dare I say, but it does retain the body, partly because of the construction. And again, this neck pickup is not quite so hot as that. This is a bit more vintage PAF territory, just over 7k. So in that position, you probably don't really want much more power than that, because things can get really woofy really quickly. So it's quite a well thought out, versatile guitar. If it were mine, I think it would spend most of its time with the humbucker split, because unusually that sounds great. Quite often the split, it's there, nice to have as an option maybe, but isn't that serious a sound really. It's neither one thing nor the other. To me, the split sounds a bit more like what I'd expect from a Gretsch, whereas you do have the option to veer a little bit more towards Les Paul territory, a little bit more anyway, with them on full power. So it's a versatile guitar. I did need to do a few tweaks on it when it came out of the box. That's another thing I should mention. There's no case with this, but at £609, that's pretty reasonable. And if you'll excuse the cliche, it's quite a lot of guitar for the money. I hope you found that walkthrough of the features useful. If you did, please hit like and subscribe. We've enjoyed our time with the Gretsch Electromatic Jet. See you next time.